Hi, my name is Geraldine Connolly. I'm a student counsellor in NUIG, and I'd like to tell you about the anxiety management course run by the Student Counselling Service. This course is run each semester. It accepts 12 students who commit to an hour and a half weekly for 4 weeks. On that course, they learn to improve and develop whatever skills they already have in managing anxiety, and also new skill sets. Confidentiality is required from each group member to make it a safe place to work and learn, and only 12 people are accepted on the course to give enough time to each group member to participate fully. This presentation aims to give you a flavour of what the course is about. To first of all look at what anxiety is or how people experience it. Anxiety occurs in 3 clusters of symptoms. One symptom is body-based, one cluster of symptoms is body-based, another cluster are emotional symptoms of anxiety, and the third cluster are mental symptoms of anxiety, thinking and worrying. So because anxiety occurs in these 3 clusters, it's important to deal with the management of anxiety in these 3 different ways also. So the management skills dealt with in the group look at dealing with anxiety in the body, dealing with emotional anxiety, and finally dealing with worrying, rumination, thinking, mental anxiety. And although all 3 symptom clusters are involved in anxiety, it is common for people to experience one of those clusters as predominating. So, for instance, some people will experience more body anxiety and panic symptoms. Another person might feel more emotional distress and apprehension. And a third person might experience anxiety mainly in the form of worrying, continual worrying or rumination. So, looking firstly at managing the physical symptoms of anxiety. Physical tension is always present, no matter what sort of anxiety predominates for a person. And it's important to reduce physical tension in the body because it always has a positive impact on emotional and mental anxiety also. Physical anxiety is sometimes called arousal of the sympathetic nervous system. And this is the psychological term used for the flight or fight mechanism, which is a primitive response in the body. And it gives rise to symptoms such as pulse racing, heart thumping, palpitations, difficulty breathing, dizziness, sweaty palms, changes in body temperature, muscular tension, especially in the head and neck and shoulders, which can in turn give rise to headaches. People can experience weakness in the legs, agitation in the stomach area, or clenching of the stomach muscles, which give rise to stomach ache. All of these sound like a huge number of symptoms to experience, and very many people are very familiar with these anxiety symptoms. However, no matter how complex or how intense anxiety symptoms are, very simple physical just go back to that. However, no matter how complex or how intense the physical symptoms of tensions are, very simple body-based management techniques can very effectively reduce or even dissipate anxiety completely for a person. And this is the first way we look at anxiety in the anxiety management group. So let me talk for a moment about managing the body. However complex the pattern of anxiety experienced by a person is, there are simple physically based techniques which, if practiced consistently, can significantly improve or even completely dissipate the symptoms. So we'll look in a moment at some of those techniques, but also to say that monitoring the day-to-day management of the body is very important. Such things as eating, drinking, sleeping and activity patterns can have an important role to play in anxiety. And so of course there's something that are looked at in the group, something that we explore. The skills that we learn for body-based anxiety are primarily deep abdominal breathing, and a lot of research shows that deep abdominal breathing can significantly reduce anxiety and bring down the level of physical activation in the body. Relaxation is another skill that people are given a training for in the group, as they also learn mindful awareness, which can be very useful in dealing with anxiety symptoms. For managing emotional anxiety, another skill set is required, and we look and explore with people in the group how they deal with their emotions generally, because very often what people in a group discover is that many of the members don't actually speak very much to other people about their emotions or share their emotions, and that bottling up emotions can heighten anxiety. So the group can be a first learning place to begin to speak about emotional issues and to ask for emotional support. Another feature of anxiety can be that it is connected with a lack of assertiveness. So this is an important area to look at, explore and to learn skills in developing assertiveness, in developing approaches to meeting the needs that we all have, and sometimes these sort of needs are not really very well looked after by people who suffer anxiety. So it's boundary skills and assertive skills are involved in the group training. Another characteristic in anxiety is perfectionism. And you may find that if you suffer from high anxiety, you are also quite perfectionistic, wanting always to do the very best despite the circumstances. So being able to take into account the circumstances involved and being prepared to accept good enough can very often reduce anxiety significantly. So managing mental anxiety is the third cluster of anxiety symptoms that we look at in the anxiety management group. Some of the techniques used are interrupting rumination, because rumination is that spiral of anxiety thinking which never gets a person anywhere. It never produces effective decision making. And so it's very important that people recognize the difference between effective thinking and rumination, which is anxiety thinking. So members of the group learn to interrupt anxiety thinking and to replace it with positive thinking and positive self-thought. Another good skill for mental anxiety is learning to have a container for the anxious thoughts, and also substituting action for anxiety thinking. Finally, apart altogether from the three clusters of anxiety symptoms that we explore in the group and develop new techniques for dealing with, we do look at the resources a person has, because nobody would be in this world unless they had resources. That is, supports internally and externally to deal with anxiety. They may not be effective enough, but they already have some sort of skills. And we look to what are the satisfactions, the joys, the pleasures in a person's life that help to balance out anxiety? Because it is a really true saying that, laughter is the best medicine. If we have humour and joy and satisfaction in our life, it very much diminishes the amount of anxiety that we experience. So this is a pleasurable part of the group where we look at encouraging a person to use the resources they already have and to develop new ones. And there can be great fun and laughter in the group at this stage. So Finally, I would say to you, no matter what level of anxiety you experience, if it is diminishing the pleasure you find in life or your effectiveness in your study, please do seek help and come to the student counselling service. You can either put your name down to become a member of the group, or you can go for one-to-one counselling. I've put on screen the contact details for the student counselling service, and I really hope that if you suffer from anxiety or stress, you do seek the help that you need. Thank you.
One of the services offered by the Student Counselling Service in NUI Galway is Cognitive Behaviour Therapy, or CBT. This presentation is a short introduction to CBT. There is strong research evidence that CBT is an effective psychological therapy for a wide range of emotional and psychological problems. Central to this approach is the understanding that our feelings and moods, including, for example, depressed mood or feelings of anxiety, are closely linked to our patterns of thinking and our behaviour. So from the thinking part, obviously we get the word cognitive, and from the doing part, the word behaviour. Often we are not aware of the ways in which conscious thoughts or underlying beliefs work to maintain negative moods. In the same way, we may not realise how the things that we do when feeling low may reinforce negative patterns. In cognitive behaviour therapy, client and therapist work together as a team to understand these patterns and to explore ways of bringing about positive change. It is an active process that involves learning about ourselves and developing new perspectives and ways of reacting. A lot of research has evaluated CBT as very effective with depression and with anxiety. I've included here some references to part of that research, and the full references are given at the end of this PowerPoint presentation. Specialised models of CBT have been developed to understand how particular types of anxiety problem, such as panic attacks, phobias, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, social anxiety, and eating disorders are maintained, and these too have been found to be very successful. Because of the success of CBT, it is recommended by many bodies, such as those of the UK National Guidelines and by the American Psychological Association, among others. When we're feeling bad, obviously feelings are central, and feelings are extremely important in CBT. But the importance of feelings is linked to the fact that our feelings depend on our thoughts and beliefs. Feelings are also linked to our actions, to our behaviour. So it's by analysing thoughts, actions and feelings together that we can learn about our own patterns when engaged in CBT therapy. An example of looking at these aspects is in the case of someone feeling depressed or feeling down. There may be thoughts and beliefs such as, I'm a failure, there's something wrong with me, I'm an oddball. If those beliefs or thoughts are in our minds, then they will tend to cause feelings. The person may be sad, may feel awkward, may feel self-conscious. As a result of having these feelings, someone might tend to avoid people more, to do less, may find it difficult to study and to concentrate. If as a result the person becomes more isolated, falls behind in their academic work, then that will tend to reinforce thoughts such as, I'm a failure, there's something wrong with me, and that will tend to increase the negative feelings. So a kind of vicious circle is created. Another example is that of panic attacks. Panic attacks might begin for someone because at a particular time in a particular situation they're feeling hot and they're sweating, and that might make the person feel somewhat anxious. Because they feel anxious, they might tend to breathe faster or to overbreathe. This might lead to new thoughts coming into the mind, such as, I can't get my breath, maybe I'm going to faint. Those kinds of thoughts will tend to make the person feel even more anxious. As anxiety increases, the person will tend to breathe even faster and the heart may begin to race. This may lead to thoughts such as, I will faint, maybe even I'm having a heart attack. And so again there's a vicious circle formed and anxiety can escalate. This again is an example of a kind of a general pattern of how the process might work when someone has panic attacks. In CBT, however, these general ideas need to be applied to you as an individual, and that's a more detailed and a more precise process. So here's a brief example of a slightly simplified analysis of someone who actually worked on panic attacks with the counselling service, and as you can see there's much more detail about how exactly feelings, behaviours and thoughts interacted for that particular person. In CBT we tend to talk a lot about thinking and doing. It doesn't mean that feelings aren't important. Feelings are absolutely central. And when you're in CBT therapy or any form of therapy, your feelings are accepted. They are what they are. But if through CBT you become more aware of your negative thoughts, beliefs and ideas, perhaps mental images that pop into your mind at certain times, then they can be taken out and they can be looked at, they can be re-evaluated, reappraised, and this may lead to fresh perspectives and insights. The same is true of actions. You can become more aware of how you tend to behave in situations where you have negative feelings, and that creates the possibility of change. And if you change the way that you think and the way that you're acting, then inevitably your feelings will change too. Working as a team is a very important aspect. The therapist is seen as a facilitator, not someone who has all the answers, but someone who helps you to find answers. The therapist's role is intended to be open, transparent and honest. There's nothing hidden from the client. It's an open relationship. Within the therapy, respect is given to the fact that whatever skills or knowledge the therapist might bring to the situation, you, the client, are the expert on you. So what's needed is a real collaboration between your knowledge of you and your own situation and what the therapist can bring to the situation. Through working together in this way then, as I said before, the theory is fitted exactly to the person. There's no attempt to try to make people fit with theories, but rather the other way around. Active involvement is extremely important if the therapy is going to be useful and progress is going to be made. On one level that means active feedback from the client regularly about how they're experiencing the therapy and how it's going for them. It's active involvement also in the sense that the client becomes, in fact, over time their own therapist, so that they learn skills and techniques and ways of managing their own feelings, thoughts and actions. It's active too in the sense that research has shown that progress is much better where clients work between sessions. That might mean keeping a diary, doing experiments, trying new ways of behaving or thinking in situations and seeing how that works out, recording negative thoughts and emotions that might occur in certain situations between sessions, and so on. So if you're interested in CBT, then you can contact the Student Counselling Service at 5 Distillery Road, and on the screen now you can see our phone number and our email contact. And I'll just finish this presentation with the more detailed references concerning the effectiveness of CBT that you saw earlier.
Alcohol is becoming an increasing problem among students, with most students unaware they have a problem at all. 95% of the student population drink, and the average age a student starts drinking is 15. We followed 3 regular students, 2 who drink and 1 who doesn't, on nights out around Galway, and asked them for their view on alcohol. We asked our students for some of the nights to drink within what would be considered safe limits to see how they would cope.
I wake up every morning always wondering what I've done, which is I'd say it's a bad thing, because I should be old enough now to be able to handle my drink and know when it's time to stop, but you know, sometimes you just have one too many, and I wouldn't consciously go on a night out without drinking. I don't see the point of it, because I'd be bored. After an hour I'd be bored, because I just don't think I could relax and fully have fun without having a drink. I don't think it's a problem. I think as a student I go out as much as anyone else, and I seem to be okay. If I didn't drink on a night out, I know I wouldn't enjoy myself as much as if I was drinking. It's just a part of my social life now. It's just the way it is.
Experts advise no more than 3 pints of beer on a night out. However, the average amount drank can be much more.
There's somebody who goes out for a night to get drunk, then they don't understand why I don't, and sometimes they'd be saying to me, why don't you drink, why don't you drink? And also I just don't like certain aspects of alcohol. That I don't like it when people come to me with stories like, oh, I was so drunk the other night and I really don't remember what I did, or you know, they end up with injuries or anything because they were so drunk that something happened to them and they don't know what it was. And that thought scares me, because I'm just like, why would you inflict that on yourself just because, you know, you think maybe lower inhibitions or whatever and you're going to have a better time. And also, like, if they were like, oh god, I can't wait to go out and get really, really drunk tonight, and just because they've had a stressful day, or if it was their solution to go binge drinking to whatever problems they might be having, then I would consider it a problem.
The maximum recommended number of units of alcohol per week is 21 for men and 14 for women, not consuming more than 6 units in a single sitting. 1 unit is equivalent to half a pint of beer, a standard glass of wine, or a standard measure of spirit. To put into context, men can have 10.5 and women can have 7 pints a week. And 4 pints in one night could be considered a binge drink.
I think it's, you know, you see it all the time, and you know, lecturers will tell you and everyone will tell you, you know, that it's a huge problem, that, you know, some people do overdo it. And you know, I just think it's a mirror image of our society in general. Like, you know, alcohol is a big problem with Irish society. It's not just the student population, so I don't think it's fair to isolate students. I think it's as much in the professional, you know, situation as well as a student. If I know someone's going to make a mess of the night and I'm not going to have a good night because you're going to have to mind them, then yeah, it would probably stop me. But generally the crowd I hang around with aren't that kind of crowd, so I'm fairly lucky that way. But yeah, sometimes when you meet new people and you're going out with a new crowd, they kind of expect things off if they don't know who you are and what you want to do.
Money problems, altercations, unprotected sex and accidents are 3 times more likely to occur among regular binge drinkers. More than 1 in every 5 students experience money problems as a result of their own drinking. And regular binge drinkers spend significantly less money on food than they do on alcohol.
I didn't enjoy the night a lot because I wouldn't constantly be able to moderate my drink on a good night out. It would take away from the fun of the night because I'm so used to going out and being able to drink whatever I can and whenever I want and how much.
I found it fine being around them when they were moderating because generally I can just have a conversation with anyone when I'm out anyway. It doesn't really make a difference to me what level of drunkenness they are unless they're so drunk that they can't hold a conversation. So for me it was fine.
I think it just proves that it has proven that when you actually have to consciously think about doing something, it's hard to do, rather than even if it is your normal, you get into a routine of doing something, it's hard to break. When you actually have to think about breaking it, then it's just awkward and you feel, I suppose you just feel weird about doing it. Yeah, no, and I think about, because drink is such a big thing in Ireland, and it's such a big deal is made about it, and, turning 18, having your first drink, even though I know a lot of people have their first drink before, but it's always such, so important, whereas in other European countries and other countries around the world, it's no big deal, especially where the legal limit is lower,
I'm starting in first year again, so people are just a little bit younger than me. I'm not much older than them, but I definitely see it with them. They're fresh out of secondary school, and they almost make a chore to go out every single night. But they don't want to almost, but they feel like, oh sure, I might as well just go out, and they never just want to take a break. They just, it has to be done. That's on their agendas to go out every night, which seems a bit of a waste as well, because in a couple of years' time the novelty will wear off and they'll realise it's not as exciting.
Are you concerned about your alcohol use or someone else's? Help is available if you contact your college counselling service, or you can go into any of the links listed below.